Welcome again, guys. So sorry about being absent. Life happened. Life happens sometimes. Back with you guys. I'll definitely just do two videos. I'm going to try doing that instead going forward so that I don't miss one. So let's just jump right in. So today we are going to be talking about pay scales, all things money. So the title of this video will be something along the lines of Let's Talk Money Part 2 part one. Sorry, it's going to be a two-parter because there's a couple of things that I need to talk about as it relates to money as teachers in this country. So if this is something that you definitely think you're interested in, you're a teacher, you know a teacher, definitely subscribe, like, and share this video. It might be useful. That's why I'm doing this. Good. All right. Now, what I did was a quick Google search, teacher pay scales UK, and it takes you directly to a couple of websites. What I like to go with is NASOT. This is actually a union. It's not really the top one, and I just like the setup of them, even though they're not my union. Anyways, now let's look at, I'm going to start from the England. So if I take you guys back up to the top, you'll see that this is the teacher pay scales for England, excluding London and the French, right? Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll all the way down to where it is unqualified. And for unqualified, I'm just going to be looking at the top. Now, important note to make here is that most schools, and I repeat, most schools, if you're coming without a QTS, will opt to automatically try to offer you 32,134 because technically you're not a qualified teacher and they don't have to pay you based on qualified teacher status. Good, and that's where QTS comes in. If you want to know about QTS, watch my other video. I did that last week. All right, now on the max of unqualified, you get 32,134. That's per annum. So you divide that up, and that's about 2,600 and something a month before deductions. Three types of deductions: teacher pension, tax, regular tax, and NIS. NIS goes towards the NHS, then tax, of course, and then teacher pension you can opt out of. So the two mandatory ones are actually just tax and NIS. Good. All right. Now, if we want to look at what a qualified teacher would actually make, and it's important to look at the figures because we are going to be comparing a lot. All right, now as it relates to a qualified teacher, so what we're going to mainly be looking at is we're going to look at the lowest one, M1, versus the maximum, right? So M1 on outside of London, so this is just England, that's the rest of England. M1 is exactly 30,000. Good. Meanwhile, M6, which is the maximum of that pay scale, is 41,333. The reason that we're not touching on UPR, that's upper pay range, is because it's very, very unlikely that you will come into the country on that pay scale. You actually have to show evidence in order to go up, and you have to be on the previous pay scale, which is MPR, in order to progress up. So anyways, 30,000 the minimum, maximum 41,333 per year. Good. And that is just qualified. All right, now let's look at inner London, outer London, and the French. Now, what I did was just click on the hyperlink. It takes us directly to those ones, and we're going to look at the unqualified, and then we're going to look at qualified. Now, where is it? Unqualified in the French, you will have a minimum of 21,933. Meanwhile, maximum will be 33,464. That's for unqualified. Now, looking at qualified on the main pay scale, you'll be at a minimum 36,745, but a maximum of 47,666. And once again, that is annually. Divide that by 12 and you'll get what you will be getting before deductions. So that will be your gross pay, not your net pay. Good. When you look at, so we just looked at In the fringe, let's look at qualified teachers in outer London. Minimum will be roughly 34,514, and you guys will realize a trend. I'll get to it in a second. Maximum will be exactly 46,001 pence. I mean, do you think they give us that 1 pence? It's quite weird, isn't it? When you look at inner London, because we just looked at outer, when you look at inner London, minimum is going to be 36,000, and that's on M1, 745, and maximum 47,666. Good. Now, what you'll notice is with the fringe, it starts at 31, with outer London 34, and then qualified in the inner London is 36. It's normally roughly about $2,000 of a difference per annum annually, the closer you get to London. So say for instance, I'm in rest of England, so I'm here, and then you have London Fringe, then outer London, then inner London. The closer you are to London, the higher it is. So the more you go this way, the higher the money is, or the starting money is. That's because it's just more expensive to live there. The M1, M2, M3, it just means the number means the amount of years normally that you're teaching. So say for instance, M2 would be you've been teaching for 2 years and you have references to back that up. M6 would mean that you're teaching for 6+ years as well. To get onto UPR, which is upper pay range, you'd have to show evidence. So you'd have to already have been in the UK. It's very unlikely that you'll come in on UPR. I'd really be impressed to see that you get that. For UPR, you have to have been on the previous pay scale, which is MPR, and then show evidence to say that you deserve to be transferred over to UPR. And that's normally going to be additional work at school. I don't even know if it's even worth it. The money, looking at it, yeah, it's wonderful money. But unlike MPR, where you can progress every year, meaning you start 2023 to 2024 on M2, then 2024 to 2025, you're on M3. On UPR, you stay on each pay scale because it's only 3 pay scales or 3 ranges for at least 2 years. So you'll be on 44 for 2 years, then 46 for another 2 years, and then 47 for another 2 years. And then that's your cap. Now, the other thing I kind of wanted to talk about would actually be this thing right here. So teaching and learning responsibilities. Now, it's important to note that teaching and learning responsibilities, otherwise called TLRs, they're not a must. You might not get them as a new teacher, and it's normally very hectic. So these can be things like for running a club, for doing additional responsibilities, just literally as the name states. So there's a lot of things that you could get a TLR for. So that's piled on top of your pay. So say, for instance, you're on TLR 1, 2, or 3. So TLR 3 is normally the lowest one, and it's normally for a fixed term, meaning that it's for just a set amount of time, and then you have to reapply or requalify for that. So normally, if you're going for a club position, they'd give you a TLR for fixed term, and that would be TLR 3. Good. The minimum is 639. That's annually. So you can guess how much that adds to your salary a month. And the maximum is 3,169. And in most cases, unfortunately, most schools tend to go to the lowest region. TLR 1 is always the highest. It starts at $9,000, 272, and maximum 15,690. Good. Okay. Now, so as I was saying, the next thing on the agenda that I wanted to talk about after the pay scales would be what I've discovered. So the first bank account that I actually ended up opening was Monzo. And I discovered that they had this thing called Monzo Pots. Now, most people say it's not the best thing in the world, but I'm just sharing my experience. Now, in Monzo Pots, what you can basically do is, it's like having separate separate accounts to put money in for specific reasons. But the other upside to this is that it's locked away in a pot, like it suggests. And say, for instance, you have a goal of £500 in the next month. You'll save up trying to get that £500, and there's a 3.7% interest that you gain on that money monthly, and it's actually paid in monthly, right? And what would happen is it's paid directly in there. Now, the only downside I would say to this, apart from the fact that it's lower than other accounts out there, is you can withdraw as much money as you like from it. Some of them has like a minimum balance of like £10 or something. Otherwise, you have to close it. So if it falls below £10, or if you try to do it below £10, then they'll probably cancel. But the most important thing here is that you can get your money when you decide that you need it. The only downside is it normally comes in the next business day. So say for instance, the problem I even had, so Friday, even though it was literally 12:04 a.m. in the morning, UK time, of course, requested like maybe £60 out of my Monzo, and it says it's going to be there in the next business day. When I checked my Monzo, it said Monday. So I have to wait for the weekend. So it has to be business days. If it's within the week, fine, you'll get it by the next day. But it's normally the next business day by 5 p.m. or 4 p.m. Good. Now, the other thing is you can get there's other ways that you can make a bit of extra money on the side from teaching as well. So the other thing I found was paid duties. So this is like, say, for instance, most teachers will always be doing some type of duty that is break duty, lunch duty. So on your break time, that's maybe 20 minutes. You maybe 2 times out of the week, you'll be required to stand guard. I literally mean guard, watch to help with safeguarding of the kids, whether it might be in the play area, near the lunch area, whatever door, just public spaces that they know needs supervision based on their experiences. And in most cases, I'm coming from a school that was paying me £10 per duty. It wasn't for the break duties because they're entitled to give you like 2 break duties if that's their policy per week. And then lunch duties was the one that was paid. So what I did was I did the 5 lunch duties a week, and that was an extra £50 that I wasn't just standing to watch kids. And you'd have to do that anyways, so might as well. So that was that. The other thing is we already talked about TLRs. So teaching and learning responsibilities can be a major thing if you want to get an extra set of money. So some of them could be, some of them, to be fair, are like $3,000, but some schools really go the cheap route and do like 600, the bare minimum, meaning a TLR3. Some of them you might get the £3,000 something, and that added onto your pay might be like a £200 a month increase, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, 200 and something. And that could actually make a good dent in your pay. The other thing is tutoring. Now, you have to be careful with the tutoring because you don't want to do too much where you're earning too much and then your tax bracket gets changed. Because if you earn above 50,000, you start paying 40% of whatever is above the 50,000 threshold a year. Good? Yeah. Currently, it's only 20%. But if you increase, it's going to be 40%. Bear that in mind. So the tutoring initiatives, some schools will actually have that tutoring where you can actually tutor a child. And I believe the going rate, as far as I'm hearing so far from people that are already doing it, is that it could be anywhere upwards to £75 an hour per child. So imagine that weekly, even if you don't get the best rate. Say, for instance, you get maybe £50 per child per hour and you get 2 children, and you're maybe doing that, maybe 2 times a week. So that's £100, that's £200 a week that you're getting for helping a few kids. Good. That is £800 roughly on a monthly basis put on top of your salary. that is monthly, not yearly. So that's a nice way to make some extra money. The other thing is you could also go private, meaning private entities doing tutoring. So I've heard of like First Tutors and them. You have to sign up, set your rate, and of course they'll advertise you. You have to meet with them and everything. So those ones are a bit more tricky. I would always say if your school offers it, go with them because they tend to have a higher rate as well. And then lastly, another way that you can actually make money is marking as examiners. So say for instance, if your school's an Edexcel school, meaning their exam board is Edexcel or their exam board is AQA, then it would actually, it's the equivalent of CXC in Jamaica or the Caribbean. So the exam is called GCSEs and A levels, but the exam boards, the top two that I've heard of at least, is Edexcel and AQA. So either one that you are working with at your school, you could actually sign up to be an examiner with them. So you'd be paid roughly about £1,200 thereabout to mark for about a week. And if you manage yourself well, you could actually just use maybe 3 days and knock it out of the park. And that's within your Easter break. Within your summer break, roughly, that you'd be making a nice chunk of money. And that's £1,200 that you're just getting for doing some marking. And bear in mind, you'd be marking in school anyways, so might as well. So those are the ones that I have for you guys for this part of the episode. In the next episode, I'll give you some more tips financially. So trying to stay consistent here, and I'll see you in the next one. Remember, like, share, and subscribe, please.